Good morning. Welcome to City Talk. It's a weekly program and a podcast produced by this city of Waco and presented by this radio station as a public service to educate and inform you about the operations and work of the city of Waco. During the next half hour, hope to bring you some interesting conversation with our city staff. It's goal to make Waco an enviable and a safe place to live and work. I'm Larry Holsey, Director of Municipal Information. I'll be your host for this program. Today, I'd like to welcome our City Secretary, Esmeralda Hudson. You've been on the program about 4 weeks ago, I guess it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Good to have you on here again.
Thanks for having me.
You are heading up the city's connection to a very, and I can say that more varies if you want to, important part of the national annual 10-year situation of the census. We're talking about the 2020 census, and this is a very critical thing. And you are a part of a team that has been organized. As Dale Fissler, our city manager, past city manager, was involved, and some other people who are working. Talk about first of all the coming together of the group of the what do you call it, the something count committee?
Sure, the complete count committee.
So there you go.
Back in April of 2019, Mayor Deaver appointed what is known as the 2020 Census Complete Count Committee. It's a group of about 8 individuals from the community. Dale Fissler is co-chair. He was former city manager. Tina Maya, who was with KWTX at the time, is now with Kalina ISD, but still lives in Waco, loves Waco, and is highly involved, and she serves as co-chair. Andrea Bearfield, who's council member for District 1, is on this committee. Hector Sabido, council member for District 2, also serves. Liz Palacio, who represents Baylor University, serves on the committee. Angela Avila with TSTC. Margie Centron is a longtime community member who I think was a former city employee, actually, and she serves on the committee. Crevis Peacock, he was at the time started on the committee back in 2019, was with Grassroots, representing the young and community involvement, but now works with Baylor University in their neighborhood community outreach program. I think I got everyone on the group. I hope I didn't miss anyone. There are 8 of them. And I serve as the staff liaison. So I work, and then traditionally I did this 10 years ago when the census was taken. Right. I was a newbie and hadn't really done it before. Trish, my predecessor, had worked on the census. So she had a notebook and notes, and we worked on that. But this time it's been a lot of fun learning from what we did last time and our efforts in the community. And Dale sent me to a lot of training to make sure that I figured out what it is that we needed to be here locally. It's so critical and very important to all communities, but mostly we want it to be important to the city of Waco and a community around Waco. We do. And Texas is one of the states that chose not to fund any public efforts to get the count out. And several states across the nation are investing millions of dollars to count their communities, and that is an indication of how important it is to be counted. Texas stands to gain seats in Congress based on the count in census. And other states want those seats. So it's really important, and we were asked and tasked to come together and figure out what our initiatives can be locally. No one knows a community better than their local folks, their local teams and partners, and so we come together once a month, talk about what they believe will to reach the most vulnerable, the most undercounted in our community, so that in 2020 we have a true, accurate count. There are in the past, we've had anywhere between, depending on the census tract in our city, which is all on our website, we've had a 56 to 60% self-response rate in our community, 70% for some of our outskirt lying census tracts. And so what that means is that in 2010, 70%, 60%, 65, 54% did a self-response to the census. That means they received it, they completed it, and they sent it in time. They didn't have to have anyone come to their door, an enumerator, and get 2 or 3 checks. They'll come up to your door 6 times to get it. And why that's important is that's an indication of how many people we could possibly not count. You're less likely or more likely not to be counted if you don't self-respond. And there's whatever the barriers are to that. An enumerator, who's your census worker, who goes out, and this time they'll be carrying iPads, first time that you can complete the census online, has to count about 300 people. So you can imagine it can be difficult for an individual to go out and try to count 300 people that are difficult to find, who may have some fear, who don't want to be counted or don't understand the reason for being counted. So it's really critical that we work our hardest to get everyone to self-respond.
Well, I hope this program is going to be one of those education parts that's going to help answer the questions on those people who are fearful, who don't know for sure. They've all heard about it, and it's getting down to the deadline now. Pretty quickly, it's going to be happening. We've been talking about it for several months, and you've got the team going, and you've been advertising in various media things and trying to get people get ready. And basically, the census is theoretically from as of where you are on April 1st. But you can actually respond earlier than that. Talk about some of the time frames. And also, let's be sure to remind people right now, it's where you are. So, for example, Baylor, TSTC, those students who are going to school in Waco, even though they may live in other parts of the nation, even for that matter, it's where you're at effective April the 1st is where you're supposed to be counted. So Baylor students, as an example, are going to be counted, or need to be counted in Waco.
That's correct.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, talk to us now about some of the timing now, because it's coming up here. Here we are, the 1st of March now. And so the very first time to be able to respond is coming up here on the 12th. But you're going to, hopefully, people will get a letter in the mail. Tell them what the process is. Sure. And then where we can actually do it. Because I asked that same question before we went on the air. When can I actually go in and complete my form?
Sure. So the census will start mailing out invitations to complete the census beginning in March 12th. This is when they'll start sending them out. They'll start arriving across the country here in Waco and McLennan County to each household. Households can then respond to the census either by phone, responding online, or doing it in the mail. Just complete it, fill it out, don't throw it out, and get it in the mail.
And I'm going to stop you right there and say, because everybody pretty much has one of those devices.
They do.
I mean, I see people that you would not expect to have phones. They have them. And so those are technical things there that have been wide open compared to the old days. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's very critical. Everybody should not have an excuse because I don't have the device or way to communicate.
Well, and what's important to understand is that you can fill out your form online. You have to have Wi-Fi access. You have to have reliable Wi-Fi access that has permission and a password to get into. So individuals may have phones, but they may not be capable of completing a form as easily it is as you do on a PC or an iPad. That doesn't mean you can't do it, but for our hard to count those that may not have the resources that many have in our community, it will be more difficult. But you can pick up the phone, call, and complete the census using your phone.
Okay.
So pick up the phone, call, you can complete your census. What's important and to the community and what people really want to understand is that it's 10 questions, maybe 9 to 10 questions, takes 5 to 10 minutes to complete, depending on the size of your household, and can define the next 10 years of our community and the shaping of Waco and McLennan County. It's completely confidential. Census employees swear a lifetime oath to keep that information safe and secure. They cannot release any of your identifying information for any person, household, or business to any other agency, to anyone for that matter, ever. They can never release that, and only the Census Bureau can release data in 72 years for genealogical purposes, but that's 72 years from the date of the census.
Which I think is a very interesting point, because I think it shows that 72 years, it's locked up, it's not can be released to anybody.
Right, identifying information.
Exactly right. And then after that time, though, that helps with people's desire to track down their genealogy and all that kind of stuff. Just think of what if we would not have had the record of those people who have, like my ancestors, who came over from Germany, and they came in legally and all that whole business, but we got to track all that, and that was based on a lot of census data.
And what's interesting, when I'm out in the community talking about it, obviously the Waco Library does genealogy courses, and people are excited about it, but even in our people of color community, they understand that several years ago, they weren't even allowed to be counted on the census. They were a property, they were not counted, their genealogy isn't as trackable, so it's even more important for them to understand that they have a right to be heard, they have a right to be counted, and they are part of this 2020 census count, and that they should be involved, and it's everyone in every minority group all across Waco and McLennan County to have a true and accurate count, so that in 72 years our future grandchildren and children can see that number. But to respond to your question about the date, that information is going to begin going out on March 12th. People will respond. You don't have to have that invitation to begin to respond. You can just go online, look up the form with the address. It's my2020census.gov is the website.
Okay.
Go online, look it up by your address, and you can enter everyone in your household. Again, 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the size of your household.
Address is a tying point. So you're not...
Address is a tying point.
Okay.
It's and what you said earlier about college students, the enumerators, the Census Bureau is now counting dorms and group homes. And hospitals and clinics. They students who live on campus should be responding for their apartment. So it's everyone who lives in that apartment should be filling out a form. Yeah. So you can, one of your roommates can log on, go ahead and fill it out for everybody, and then if the other roommate wants to make sure that they did it, they'll log on to the address and they can see that it's either been completed or not.
So that's the identifier. There's no other thing. You don't enter Social Security number or any other numbers or any names.
The census will never ask you for your Social Security number.
Absolutely, and that's one I want to make sure very clear, because I think one of the things I'm going to say this. I don't know. You can verify it or not, but I think it's more important for. I'm not saying nobody's not important. Okay, everybody's important to be a part of the census, but I think minorities and those people who've been less counted maybe in the past have more to gain by making sure we have the right proportion of people based on ethnicity and everything else, because some of the times the government uses that to help fund or benefits or whatever. And so, we want to have the right information for that to happen. You talked about the congressional seats and everything. That also has down what is the actual dollar figure per person counted that impacts our area.
So we don't know the exact dollar, but based on census data and based on federal funding studies done by George Washington University, they estimate for our area, for every one person who doesn't complete the census, we stand to lose $1,500 per person per year over the next 10 years. Yeah. And so we could, with just 1% of our population, miss out on over 20 million federal monies that could help for SNAP, Medicaid, CHIP, early childhood development, Pell Grants for our universities. Waco ISD is a significantly Title I school. Their funding comes from these numbers and identifying it. And what's even more critical is that children under the age of 6 are one of the largest groups to be undercounted, and is one of the undercounted groups that we haven't made a dent in. It continues to get worse. Yeah. And those numbers are what our school districts are using to plan for future schools, future teachers, future resources, summer school programs. And so not having an accurate count of our children under 6 is absolutely disheartening, if anything. In 2010, they estimate not counting 1 million children in our community. We don't know for certain.
And that's sad, because that's, again, $1,500 approximately per child or per individual, whatever. And all of those programs that are funded through those that estimated amount would be allocated and sent to our area to better improve. You mentioned schools and things, all kinds of things that many of the recipients who are talking about, who are afraid of the census, would be the beneficiary of many of those federal funds.
Well, and some of the things that we've looked at that cause a child to be undercounted is they stay with their grandparents, they're living with step parents, so they are foster parents, and they don't know to be counted. Where you're living on April 1st, if you're living there temporarily, staying with grandparents, you're not with your mom and dad, you're staying with mom instead of dad, where it is, you're mostly on April 1st. Count your child on that day. They can't count themselves, and it's critical that we count our kids in our community.
Absolutely.
They're more like, if you live in apartment complexes, if you are low income, if you're a minority, you're more likely not to be counted as in the 2020 census. And so our goal, what the Complete Count Committee has been working on, is to strategically, that's a big word, strategically go to areas in our community where we know that our undercounted, sometimes underserved population is, and set up census action centers. So we'll have census, it gets to be tongue-tying, census action centers at our health district. We'll have them at all of our libraries, at all of our parks and recreation centers. Waco Transit will have one. We're identifying, hopefully, have block parties by every neighborhood association will host a block party so that we can have census actions at that location. And what that will be are computers with Wi-Fi connections that are set to the my2020census.gov website, and individuals can complete their census 5 to 10 minutes, and then they're done. We'll hopefully have some incentives, some raffles out and about. But dollar stores, if it's a frequent, this is the first time the census is online, so we're going to have data pretty quickly back on community tracts that aren't completing the census. So we're going to kind of pack up our team, go out to those locations, set up at a dollar store or a location that they'll have us, and hopefully reach everyone that we can.
Absolutely. If you've just joined us, we're visiting with Esmeralda Hudson, who is our city secretary for the city of Waco, and she's the liaison primarily of the what is the count committee again?
2020 Census Complete Count Committee. I call it the CCC.
Okay. Very, very critical part of our history and our lives for the next 10 years at least.
Next 10 years.
And it's so critical that any of you listening out there that have any fears about being a part and registering a part of the census, we're going to talk a little bit more about that, and we're going to make sure that you feel comfortable by the time this program is over. Because it's so critical. Not only is it going to increase the funding that comes to our area that you personally may be receiving by way of the end of the federal benefits and things that we have, but it's also going to help in our legislation. I'm tongue-tied too.
It helps legislation, economic development, companies, corporations, entrepreneurs look at these stats to decide where and when to build businesses, what type of community to reach out to, if a true representation of their clients, of their citizens, and whether a business can start there, funding for our traffic, for our streets, for our local infrastructure, all of that federal funding looks at the census data to decide on issues that matter to everyone in our community. HUD funding, which recently we received millions to help with lead abatement in our houses in our downtown area in East Waco, several areas of our community, that's determined on census funding.
Those are good. I'm glad you're naming those because those are just things that we all want: better streets, we want better homes and facilities, safer, healthier, and all this kind of stuff. It all boils down to that. And so, if we're not counted, we then can't get the funds that we need to maybe
or fair representation.
Absolutely. Okay, so March the 12th, the first letters are going to be sent out and notifications of everybody that says, okay, now you can get online, and you can do it online, by phone, all these different things. And can you do it by mail?
You can do it by mail. The census is going to be sending forms only to those that they feel like won't respond by online and will more likely respond by mail. So not everyone is going to get a mail questionnaire. Those that are less likely to go online will get one, but you can request one if you'd like. But the quickest way is to go online and do it, call someone, or if you get the form, go ahead, fill it out and send it in.
And these are going to be mailed to the specific address, not necessarily to the person there. So it's going to go to the address of everybody, every home or house or whatever.
Every household.
Is going to get something, and you'll say, okay, whoever's in here. Now, do they have one form for everybody?
They
in
do.
Other words, you can put your family of 5 or 6 or whatever all on it.
Or 9 or 10 or 20.
Okay. Yeah. So, and all it's going to ask for each individual child, for example, is their name. And age, maybe.
Age and sex, female, male.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the questions. You talk about 10 questions. What type of questions? And I'm not expecting, because you don't have one in front of you, to think about that. But I want to talk against anybody's fear.
So a majority of the questions are going to be directed at the head of household. So that's the one individual who's completing the form for everyone in the household. And it'll be asking, the address, the sex, specific questions, a phone number. They ask a phone number in case there's discrepancies or 2 or more people are filling it out for that location, and they can contact that individual. Then they ask for the second head of household's information, and then it's just basically name, age, sex, for every person under that.
Okay. Well, it sounds pretty benign as it is.
Very simple. There is ethnicity questions, and there is also race questions.
Okay.
And there is no citizenship question.
No, but those are important questions because, again, a lot of the data and things that we receive funding from are indicators that we have to have when we're making requests for grants and things like that.
Well, it's good to know what our community looks like.
Absolutely.
To have a true count of everyone in our community, and those numbers are used, or that data, the statistical data is used to have a true representation of our community. You look back at census data tracts now, and we know that for several of our tracts, 30% of those tracts are Spanish-speaking only communities. And so those are communities that have made a home here in Waco for the first time, for the first generation. And we know that they're there, and we know that it's an opportunity to reach out and to provide services in a way that meets the needs of all of our community.
Well, to me, I see this as an opportunity to be able to celebrate and be sure that your race, your gender, your everything is represented.
Yes.
I'm proud to be who I am.
Exactly.
Okay. And you need to celebrate that by saying, I am proud of being, and I want to be counted in that way to show that I'm a part of a group. I may be a minority group right now, but may not in the future. If we count correctly, we're going to find out that minorities change and all that kind of thing. So speak about the language part of it, because how are we?
So the census is available in 13 languages, online and by phone. You can request additional languages, and so there's a phone number that will be put on every census brochure or flyer or invitation that lets you call in case you need something other than those languages. Obviously, English and Spanish, which is the majority of our community, are available online, and you can complete it in those languages.
Okay. Now, what if somebody knows they're going to be out of the country, out of the city, or not available to complete this, and let's say a 30-day trip, they've gone overseas or whatever else? What is the responsibility? Of course, they are obviously residents of Waco, but they're not there as of that time. What is the time, say, for a Baylor student, you're here for a semester, or, so you're saying as of April 1st, they need to be counted, but what if they're extended time? That may be a trick question. I don't know.
So I can respond this way. Wherever you are on April 1st, you can complete it online at my2020census.gov.
Okay.
No matter where you are in the country. And if you're there on business, but your home is in Waco and you mostly live there and will be there, then you can complete that for your area.
That's kind of what I'm talking about. Talk a little bit now about the outreach that you all have done, because you all have done an enormous amount of publicity and marketing and to get the word out. But I think the clarity right now needs to be focused on March the 12th and through April the 30th. And we'll talk about after April the 30th in just a minute.
So, we're working with all of our partners, including Municipal Information, and creating PSAs that are airing on all of our cable channels. We're working really closely with Waco ISD. They're a large partner because a lot of their population are in those undercounted groups that we want to make sure to reach to. We are focusing on recruiting ambassadors or trusted voices, census champions, kind of like yourself, who understands the importance of it and who can be the voice to our community. The individuals that are maybe fearful or don't understand the census don't want to hear it from me or you or from the city government to complete the census. What's important to them is the people that they know and trust, their physicians, their doctors, their
clergy,
their pastors, their Sunday school leaders, individuals who are in the community they know and trust, to let them know, tell someone if you're listening to this radio station now, let them know the importance of the census, how important it is into our community and to those to be counted, and then they're more likely to complete the census. So we're just asking everyone to be a voice and to share. Our community is large, but it's also a community that makes things happen, and you can run into somebody that you know in just about any location of this community. And so it's just important for everyone who's hearing me or who hears any of the advertisements to tell somebody about the census, tell them to fill it out, tell them where the Census Action Center is. We're doing a lot of on social media through the whyicountwaco.org is our website. We have a Why I Count Waco Facebook, social media, and we partnered the Waco Foundation Communication Co-op to create a website or an identity or group that's different from the city of Waco, because this encompasses all of our community. Yeah,
but I think one of the things you kind of touched on, which I always like to do, is we need to empower our citizens, everybody that's out there who's listening to us right now, to do every effort they can to spread the word, get into the little holes and nicks and crannies that we have people maybe not coming out of for this very reason, and realize it's all a community enjoyed benefit that we're going to have. So everybody needs to go out and make sure, and when you see somebody starting after March the 12th or even April 1st or whatever else, and you see somebody that might be a less responsive or a vulnerable person that's maybe feel for whatever reason, we need to make sure they get counted and they go through that exercise. And maybe you help them in some way or another by either you let them use your phone or let them use your Wi-Fi or something. And again, it might be something that the various businesses around town may say, in order to support that, and I'm going to just say Starbucks, for example, they have Wi-Fi, but you can go there, and we're providing Wi-Fi. So if you need Wi-Fi, you can do that type of thing, and it's a business incentive, and maybe they'll buy a coffee while they're there.
Maybe
Who knows? But I'm just saying we need to work together as a community and just not let the government or these representatives that you've been involved with have to, everybody else will take care of it for me. This is important for everybody to be mobilized and get energized about this and really get involved with it.
It's very important.
Absolutely, because that's what it is. All right. So after April the 30th, okay? This is as of April the 1st. After April the 30th, what's going to happen?
So, right, the census campaign is set, so anywhere between March 12th and April 30th is what they call the self-response period. So anyone who's completing that is considered self-responded, and it goes to that percentage that they're going to evaluate afterwards. After that, they will start reaching out to communities that haven't responded, and they'll send out enumerators. There'll be some enumerators going out before that because they know what community blogs have received letters or invitations and haven't responded. So they'll start going out and reaching those communities. And
basically knocking on doors.
And
they'll have proper
So if you don't
ID.
Want someone knocking on your door, then you should probably go online and fill it out.
But they will have proper ID and things like that, and say that and this will be something you'll publicize as well.
We will. We'll have that information on our Y Account Waco.
Yeah, absolutely.
We probably should do a PSA on that, Larry.
Well, we will.
Let's
we'll
do it.
probably do that too. Well, we got about a minute left, and I want to make sure everybody understands this is so critical to the Waco-McLennan County area. We have so many great things happening, and to get some federal funding and the federal representation that we properly need and deserve, we need to make sure everybody that lives in our community, and that includes the homeless need to be counted as well. And there's effort I know you got for that. But everybody has to be counted because we stand to lose approximately $1,500 per individual that does not get counted. We also lose
per year for the next 10 years.
Absolutely, for 10 years. And we also lose congressional and federal representation in our government that's going to go out and speak up for us and get the funding and things we need for all the very, very critical. So watch for the letter to come in the mail sometime around March the 12th, 13th, somewhere in there. You can respond by your phone, by email, by paper, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but
go online.
Main thing is respond.
My2020census.gov. Go there. Visit.
Absolutely. Esmeralda Hudson, who is a liaison for the 2020 Complete Count Committee, Census Count Committee.
Yeah, sounds good.
Census, all that has been our guest. And Esmeralda, I thank you for all of you do, really. And this is very critical, and you've done a great job, and hopefully the people will respond. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
On a routine basis, the Waco-McLennan County Public Health District inspects numerous food establishments throughout the county to assure they meet health district requirements. Normally at this time, we give you the names of the food establishments receiving a score of 20 or more demerits during the previous week. The good news is there were no food establishments receiving a score of 20 or more demerits between February the 24th and February the 28th. Now, we'd like to acknowledge the establishments that received no demerits between February the 24th and February the 28th. In Belmead, La Vega ISD H.B. Miles Intermediate School at 4201 Williams Road, La Vega Primary Center at 4400 Harrison Street, La Vega Learning Center at 900 Ashland Street, Belmart Food and Fuel at 2917 Belmead Drive, Days Inn at 1504 North I-35, Roadway Inn at 1510 North I-35, Pizza Hut Loop 340 at 601 North Loop 340, in Lacey Lakeview, Las Trancas Taqueria at 605 East Craven Avenue, Kent Quick at 705 New Dallas Highway, in Spiegelville, Shiver My Shavers Mobile and their commissary both at 101 Randy Drive, in Waco, Zrisco's Cafe Mobile at 810 LaSalle Avenue, Aldi at 1220 North Valley Mills Drive, Big Daddy's Kitchen Mobile at 700 East Park Street, Captain Billy Whizbangs at 901 Lake Air Drive, True Love at 414 Franklin Avenue, William Hoyt Bagel and Brew Commissary at 1020 Franklin Avenue, The Brazos at Hillcrest at 4330 Marketplace Drive, Olympic Company Family Restaurant at 1901 North 18th Street, The Eatery at 821 Clifton Street, Halftime Restaurant and Bar at 520 Austin Avenue, Nightlights Donuts Mobile at 1500 Columbus Avenue, Alta Vista Montessori School at 3637 Alta Vista Drive, Sodetso Hot Corner at 1618 South University Park Drive. A list of the inspection scores for all Waco-McLennan County food establishments is available on the City Waco website at waco-texas.com. Just click on City Departments and scroll down to Health District. The food score link is to the right, listed first. We hope you'll join us again next week for more information about the City of Waco on City Talk. This program is produced by the Municipal Information Department of the City of Waco and is provided as a public service by this station.